My big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for it is worth
it.
Just focus on the next step.
Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing something.
That is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing anything.
It's a challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think
could.
there's a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I
kids
just
these days,
love working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about.
hindsight,
I've also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
It
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
Hi, Jamie.
I'm freezing in Hamilton. I forgot how cold it was here, and I'm not loving it.
Oh, good. You put a surfboard in the corner.
Yeah, I see this.
Yeah, I just wanted to be matching, so...
See, Grace, she's been watching. She's a fan.
Why are you from Hamilton, Jamie?
No, I'm originally from Onifiro.
My geography has been proven to be quite poor in this.
If you go, if you're going towards Auckland and you can get off at Mercer,
Yeah.
if you go 10 minutes, kind of keep going in country, that's kind of where Onifiro is. It's the border of North Waikato,
Now we're talking. I'm aware.
but it is the middle of nowhere. We don't have a lot there.
Well,
Someone the other day, Jamie said Nelson or something, and Grace was like, I was at the bottom of the North Island. Now,
it wasn't
Grace
a
did
test.
get a scholarship in geography, but it was definitely not general knowledge.
well, I have to have flaws.
So anyway, Jamie, this is Grace. Grace, Jamie.
To meet you.
Yeah, look, I'm really excited for this one, Jamie, because I've been sitting through interviews with firefighters and farmers and all sorts of things. And of course, pretty much like Grace, we were fumbling our way through trying to delve deeply, whereas I'm now interviewing. So Grace is going to sit back definitely on this one because this is my specialty. Although, no, I wanted to jump in because the way she sees things is important to me because she sees it from a different lens. So look, yeah, thank you for being here. Teaching, like I say, is a profession that means a lot to me, and I think it's a really important one. I'm not sure whether I would make the statement there's less young ones going teaching, but that was the feeling I got as I ended my career, that the chatter around teaching wasn't as high as it used to be. So really interested in why and how you did it. Your PRT mentor is in a room next door to me and wants to know how your marking and planning's going in the holidays. So are we working hard, Jamie?
Yeah, always. I'm always working hard.
Good. So I suppose to interview to the audience, I've met you a few times at social school events when I moved to Whitianga because you're now at Mercury Bay Area School. What impressed me whilst you were there, it's sort of one of those things we'll talk about this age gap later. I think the average age of a teacher is well into the 40s, mid 40s, late 40s, early 50s. And so you arrive. Yeah, it's something I think is a difficult thing. Your age gap with kids will be 4 or 5 years, but a lot of the people you work with, they're 20, 30, 40 years your senior sometimes. Yeah. So really interested in that because that could be something that kids, it puts them off or whatever. So I want to know how you deal with that. We'll talk about that later. So anyway, well done for going to a lot of the social things. And of course, that was where I thought, well, look, here we go. This kid's clearly stepped up. She's at things. She's involved in her community and she's loving what she's doing. Can I ask, before I say much more, how have you, just a reflection, your first 6 months, how are you feeling now? You're sitting with this chosen career, 6 months in, you're in the middle of your holidays. How are you feeling?
Definitely less like I'm chasing my tail. I think after the first term, my first holidays, I just hibernated for 2 weeks and just tried to regain some sort of energy. But I think coming into term 2, it was less of, I have no idea what I'm expecting and what I'm walking into, to, okay, like I have my classes, I know what my planning is going to be like. I'm a little bit more confident going into it. So I definitely am enjoying these holidays a little bit more than just completely being drained.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's good to hear. Okay, so probably some of the things we'll hit on our way through our system we have is eventually the really important things will be teacher training. I think any kid who's contemplating any sort of teaching, whether it be primary, secondary, even early childhood, would need to understand there's training involved. So we're going to touch on that. The teaching job itself, which you've already slightly talked about, the PRT program, which I think maybe a lot of young people wouldn't understand. You have a program over 2 years you go through providing support. I'm really interested too in the area school connection because you're from or you went through Onewhero, which Grace was talking off air. Maybe it won't maybe end up in the podcast, like where the hell is that? I must admit, Grace, although I mocked you, I had to go away and Google it. So northern Waikato out towards the west coast. I'm going to be really interested in whether that shaped where you ended up. So this area school concept, because it worries me maybe when an area school advertises a job, there are literally people not applying because they have no idea what that is and whether maybe that's something they... So anyway, I'm really interested in your reflections on being at an area school and now teaching at one. My little gist, 25,000 secondary school teachers, with which you're one of them, and there's only 45 area schools, really specialised things. Welcome here. Can we touch on your experience at Onewhero, like your education, whether it was just there or whether you've been through numerous schools? How did, particularly secondary school, but it may be primary as well, how did it go for you? What did you love? How did you involve yourself in that?
I think Onewhero was quite a unique experience, especially because there's literally a preschool right next to the school. So I went from the preschool through years 1 to 13. So I've had mates since I was like 2 that stuck with me, and I still keep in good touch with them now. So that's quite what I loved about Onewhero, is it's very a community and tight-knit area. And my mum was also a teacher at the school, so I think I had a different experience as well. So my little sister and my older brother got taught by her, and I luckily skipped that area. I don't think she would have loved me being in her classroom and having to deal with me. But I think one of the things comparing Onewhero to like a bigger school that I struggled with, well, mainly the only thing I struggled with, was it would kind of give you limited subject opportunities. So I was trying to make the best of what I had there, but I never had like a bad experience. Like I never dreaded coming to this because of how well the teachers lifted you up there.
Jamie, before Ludlam gets into the educator part, and I really do think it's interesting what you said about less subject availability. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that. But with your mum being a teacher, how, like, that has to be an influence at some point, and you'll come back to you, Ludlam, but I'm really curious, did she encourage or steer you away, or what role does her being a teacher play?
Okay, so she was always super encouraging in school, always told me to try for everything, give everything a go. But I think having her there was also quite unique because every teacher, well, like 90% of the teachers, were also our family friends, and I got taught by majority of them. So then them also being an encouraging person in the classroom, it almost felt like, I don't know, Onewhero was like a second home, just because I saw everyone like every day and even outside of school.
Yeah. And what you're touching on, Jamie, really is the real advantage, I would imagine, of an area school. I mean, yes, there's disadvantages. They're usually small, like the one you work at Mercury Bay is the biggest in the country. It would be this, even just the year 9 through 13 would be bigger than some normal schools. It's just you do have a primary school with you. So for anyone listening, an area school is 0 through 13, not 9 through 13, and your 7 and 8s, which could be a middle schooler, with you as well. So you just have, you're walking the school, and I've visited your school, and next minute these miniature children walk past with their little hats, and they're off crying because something's happened and they're going to get a Band-Aid. Like, it's so cute, but they see you, equally they get to know you before, they end up maybe in your class later.
Yeah.
So there's this wonderful feeling, and then you've got mum. Like, school must have felt really cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like definitely I couldn't get away with some stuff because mum was a couple classrooms down. But I don't think I was ever a kid that tried to like really get in trouble and push the boundaries. So that never really had an effect. But yeah, it was like I couldn't fault it. And I think it's crazy, like talking to some kids in my teaching cohort, especially, they had classes of like 100 like year 13s and things like that. And they were like, oh yeah, I didn't know half the names in like my year group. And I was like, I knew of or knew everybody that was either there like a couple years below or a couple years down. Like there wasn't one person that really walked around our school and you can be like, oh, that person's related to this person or I know this guy.
Yeah. When you touched on subject availability, quick test, did you have chemistry?
Yeah.
Physics?
Yeah.
Bio?
Yeah.
Stats?
Yeah.
Calculus?
Yes, sadly.
Okay, so you wouldn't have had psychology.
No.
What about like drama, music? You had these?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had we had the course of we had art, we had music. I don't know if we had a drama or I think we like had a little drama maybe. But we had all the sciences, we had maths, we had English, geography, we had PE, we had outdoor ed. Like we had all the main basic ones. But it was like if you wanted to do accounting or like psychology or
languages.
I think we did have tourism. Yeah, no, we didn't have languages.
Yeah, because that feels like one that maybe you need a demand, like you need a little bit of a bigger one. This is interesting to me because I really didn't even quite comprehend that you go from 1 to 13. So you have people with beards and who have gone through puberty and have grown, and then people who like are really struggling to brush their own teeth. Like that is the range we have here.
But I think it's like, I think it is like the best way to go through school because you don't come in as like a year 9 or year 7 and you're like terrified of the big kids, and you come in from like year 1 and you interact with these people all the way through. So like there was never a younger kid that couldn't go to an older kid and ask for help and they would say no. Like everyone was always super kind and always helpful to the young ones. Like I think we differ from Mercury Bay where there's separate times for primary school breaks and senior breaks, like during lunchtime, whereas on Fiddle it was like all together 24/7.
Wow. So you go from really knowing and also having a really positive experience of school, because we've had other guests who maybe were excited to leave school. I'm not going to project. I'm going to ask you, I can imagine in year 13, like you've been doing this for 13 years, you know the people, like you said, it feels like a second home. Then to be in that place where you're going to leave and take that next step. Talk us through those emotions, but then also the logical of, oh, well, what am I going to do after this?
Yeah. It was definitely, my year 13 group, we were, I think at the time, the biggest group, and there was only like 10 or 12 of us. So when everyone was like, okay, we're leaving, it was quite sad because it felt like, I don't know, like this piece of you was going to be gone and going to be missing for a while. But I was also one of the kids that changed my mind 24/7 of what I was going to do after school. Like I couldn't make my mind up. I think I was going to be like a nurse, and then I was going to be a doctor, and then I wanted to be physiotherapy, and I finally landed on teaching. And it was because of such a great experience I had in my year 13 PE class. And my teacher kind of influenced me to go down that path.
What sort of grades were you getting, Jamie, at school? Because were you getting endorsements, or were you getting NCA level 1, 2, 3, or obviously?
Yeah, I got level 1, 2, and 3, and I think I was merit endorsed in all of them. I was never like top of the class kid, but I also was never trying. Like I did put effort into all my assessments, but I was definitely more of a sporty kid rather than an academic kid.
Okay. And how did sport go then in a school situation where there's 10 of you Did you all play in the netball team, or how did sport? Because you're a sporty kid. How did sport been in a? Because I was also going to touch on earlier. Not only is it that community in the school, and you knew the kids, they were probably your neighbour. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I think our school, or even smaller schools, there's some really good athletes. And we had a really good netball team. But in the recent years, our rugby team has had to combine with Tuakau College because we don't have enough for a first 15. So then reaching out in those pathways. And my brother, I don't think he ended up playing rugby at school in year 13, and he went to a club just because there was better opportunities there for him. But yeah, I lucked out with netball. We had a good group of girls for it. And you do see some really good athletes come through on Iwhiro, but it's definitely limited opportunities for, we have bigger schools, and we go to Eunice and you see like they have all these flash gears and like they've been training 24/7 and they absolutely waste you. But then we go for a good time, and we're lucky if we get, some people to sponsor us jerseys and stuff, and we still think that we're the coolest kids there.
But you've also got that resilience, haven't you, Jamie? Now you're a bit older and you're looking back. That resilience you get from having to either join a club team, probably play with adults, deal with young kids that may be second, so you're actually building a set of skills, because that must be the area school advantage. All of those things.
Yeah. And like we still get really cool. Yeah. And like we got opportunities to do sports exchanges with Whangamata, and like the sports coordinator at our school tried their best to, give us all these different opportunities. But the main sports we had was netball, basketball, and rugby, and volleyball just got popular there, but never we didn't have a squash team or a badminton team or, football team, really anything like that. It was just the main sports.
I think too, hearing this, Jamie, it reminds me when I went to the States for rowing, and I remember they said, you'll be impressed by everything because you were already pretty happy with what you were experiencing in New Zealand. And then you go there and there's suddenly way more facilities and people involved and asking questions. So it sounds like with you, you were having a great time. And then now as an educator and in the teaching system yourself, if you get more facilities or more resources, you're going to be ecstatic about it, not because you've it's leveled up, but you already appreciated what you had. I am curious, and this is a bit of a hard pivot, but you had this PE teacher saying, teaching should be for you. Were you gung-ho on a subject, or did you just want to be a teacher? How did that idea first spark for you?
I always still wanted to be involved in sport, but teaching kind of came. I had a really cool and it stuck with me the whole time, and we were doing a really hard assessment about biomechanics, and none of us were really loving it, and everyone was over it. We're in year 13, we're ready to leave, and then he was like, if you all get excellence on this assessment, I'll take you out to lunch and we'll go to this Mexican place in Pukekohe and I'll show you guys all food. And so everyone absolutely went hard on this assessment. We all ended up getting excellence. And he actually did take us to Pukekohe and took us out to lunch. And then we were all reflecting on what we were going to do after school. And it was that experience when I was like, this is something that's going to stick with me. And he took this where he could see that we were struggling and then made it really fun and uplifted us. And that's when I was kind of like, oh, I could be a PE teacher and take this sporting side as well.
Isn't this ironic, Grace? Because to motivate you guys, it was like a trip to the Gold Coast. And they're off to Pukekohe.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
That's gold. That's brilliant. And what a great teacher. I love it. Okay, so Jamie, so in the end, you had some other options, but eventually you went, right, I'm applying for TCOL. No. Did you say TCOL or did you go degree first? What program did you enter that application and that step from school? We clearly know why you left your schooling and that pathway was teaching. That makes sense to us. Yeah. How did that next step go? Where did you go? What did you do?
When I was deciding, I applied for Dunners and then I also applied for Waikato, and I ended up going Waikato, and I did a Bachelor of Health, Sport and Human Performance. And then that was 3 years. And on top of that, you do the teaching diploma. So that's what I did.
So explain. So I'm going to say normal degree. That'll make sense to most people. The degree was to do with sports, health, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Similar to me, I do a geography degree, and then at the end of it, there's a year's training. Is that right?
Yeah.
So maybe can you touch on that for young people sitting there? Whether they've done a chemistry degree, a psychology degree, they've done their degree, they have a specialist subject or two, hopefully. What was the teacher training experience like? What did that involve?
It was definitely the hardest year of uni. It was super full on, and really hard to juggle trying to work part-time and earn money, and then doing placement, and then also studying. But you go in and they kind of ask what you want to specialize in. And so I did PE and health. And then you have like a month in January. Oh, it goes January to December. You have a month in January of one paper, and then you do 2 weeks at a placement school, some more studying at uni, 5 weeks at a placement school. Then you do semester break, some more papers at uni, and then you finish with a big 7-week placement, and then you finish off with a couple papers.
So what's placement? Talk kids through placement. What will a placement? I mean, they probably understand papers, do a bit of study, something like that. Placement, what does it involve? Particularly early on, it looks different than what it would later, eh?
Yeah. So you do 2 weeks in 5 weeks, and you do it as a block, but you do it at the same school, and then your 7-week one is at a different school. And they try to get you to go to not really like similar schools. So if you go to Hamilton Boys High, they want you then to go to like somewhere like, I don't know, Hillcrest High or Morrinsville College. So I went to Rotatuna Junior for my first one and Morrinsville College for my second one. And I lucked out with my mentor teachers, and they're kind of the people that you take on their classes and they guide you through and they help you. And if you have any questions or something, you go to them and they're just your main support person. But you're meant to do it like you go into placement, you shadow and you observe and you try to learn kids' names and build those relationships. And then you start teaching half a lesson, or you take a do now, and then you end up doing maybe 3 half lessons and then 2 lessons in a week. And then eventually you start taking the whole week by yourself. But with PE teaching, which I quite liked, I got there and my mentor teacher was like, okay, go, like do something, run a game. And it took away that factor of like overthinking and stressing out. So I quite enjoyed that way. But I know other kids still did like slowly introducing the side and slowly getting into it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I had a mentor teacher myself who pretty much day one, where are you at? Do you want to start taking them? And probably read me as an individual. And maybe slightly easier, to be fair, in PE, because I think entering a 4-walled classroom in chemistry, say, or bio, suddenly there's a lot of management, there's a lot of other things. Sometimes kids, if they had a really good PE teacher, the systems are there. You know, they turn up, they're dressed in their PE, they go, right, what are we doing today? And you can sort of slowly build skills. Yeah. Okay, so that all went well. What schools did you go to, did you say?
I did Rotatuna Junior and Morrinsville College. So they were quite opposite. And I found Rotatuna quite interesting because they do those 90-minute lessons. So you have 45-minute, which I loved for learning. Like you have a big 60 group of kids and you take one half for 45 and then the other half come out for the last 45. And you're co-teaching with another teacher. So ours was digital, but my mentor teacher would get me to take half the kids, and then after that, 45 minutes was done, we would reflect and be like, okay, what worked well? What didn't necessarily work well? What are you going to change? And then I could implement that straight away for the next group, which I think was really cool for the learning side.
Okay. Cool. So how relevant were the studies and papers you were doing, do you believe, in the outcome of being a good teacher? And you're laughing because so am I deep down. How did it,
I think everything you learn on placement. Like we did papers that just felt like repeated versions of themselves, and you're kind of sitting there writing these 4,000-word essays being like, what am I actually going to take away from this that I'm going to put into practice at school and into the classroom? Whereas, if we had a paper that was on PRT stuff or how to go into an interview and things that they're going to ask you and what you should, like how to structure your answers. Like they never had anything like that. So when you came into that side and out of uni, you kind of went in blind and it was a bit daunting.
Could you?
Yeah, I think
So, like, is there something you can do to prepare for that? Like, you went in blind. Does that have to happen?
It would more just probably be, or I was quite lucky with my mentor teacher, Rutatuna. I sent him my CV and my cover letter and asked him to have a look at it, and he edited it and told me some things, what I don't really necessarily need to say and some things I can add into my CV, which really helped me.
Yeah. Interesting. And like we all want jobs too, so that has to factor in, but like going from Rutatuna Junior then to Mindful College, and you were getting like a range, I imagine, of ages then as well, right? Like,
yeah.
At what point as a teacher or in the journey do you have to decide, I want to teach primary, middle, or high school?
It's kind of, so if you're doing the 3 years and then a diploma on top of that, I'm pretty sure you can still go into primary, but that's quite like 2 different learning. So you either choose, yes, I want to be primary, or yes, I want to do 9 to 13 and seniors.
Right. And for you coming in then doing that diploma, what was that process like for you?
Like, why did I choose secondary?
Yeah.
I think after watching my mum being a primary school teacher, I could never have the patience she does.
That's valid.
We had swimming sports at school, and I had a broken arm, and I couldn't participate. And she was like, "Oh, you can just come like help out in my classroom." And I was like, "Okay, sweet." Like, I was like year 10. It was all good, and we had like there was kids like swinging off my arm, and like they were hectic as, and I was like, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot do primary school.
I have a friend, she's now gone to London to do it, and she has strictly teaching outfits, not because they're like code, but because they're durable, because they're climbing on her, there's like marks, and she's got a mark on her arm, and I'm like, what is going on with you?
It was crazy because that was when she was new entrance. Now she's year 3, 4, which I think she enjoys a lot more. But yeah, they like primary school teachers, props to them, they have unreal patience with kids. I just don't think I could handle like trying to get sentences out of primary school students sometimes.
So then with the high schoolers, part of that too, if you're going back to your placement, you're standing in front of people that by the time they're 12 or 13, like, yes, you're older than them and you're more educated, but you're not that much more older than them. Like, some people have siblings who are still in high school when they're in teachers college. I'm very curious about those nerves going into a classroom for the first time. Like, you did have your mentors and stuff, but does that get easier now that you're 6 months in?
I think having my own classroom or own classes, it's a lot easier. But with my mentor teacher, I think he could tell when I came in I was quite nervous, and he just told me to like just act confident, like fake it till you make it. And they're just gonna know if you come in, it's like they'll smell fear and they'll just act out and they don't want to listen to you and they'll just come back to me. So I just came in and just acted super confident, even though on the inside I was like screaming and petrified and never done this before. And I was like, what do you mean I'm meant to like tell these year 9s and 10s to play this game if they don't want to play it? And he was like, just do it and it'll be fine and they'll go along with it. And they did, which was really cool. But it is definitely a lot easier now having my set of classes and building those relationships from day dot. Whereas in placement, you spend like 5-7 weeks trying to build these relationships with these students. And then by the last week, they're really awesome, really cool kids. And you're kind of like, okay, see you later. Like, I'm done now, which sucked in a sense. Yeah.
Wow. Then I'm curious, Ludlam too, for you. Like, you had your own reputation. One, you've been doing it for a hot minute at Cambridge High. Like, did you have to have that teething period at the start of every year with each class to get like what Jamie was just saying?
Well, when I arrived at Cambridge High, I'd been teaching about 5 or 6 years, and I thought I was good. I got crucified. Like, so even arriving at that point, new, whereas even what Jamie will notice being if she's at Mercury Bay next year and the year after, all of them get to know her. And so my reputation, I suppose, preceded me. Kids knew of me. They talk to people like you, and you'd say something. And so I think it gets a lot easier. Absolutely. I didn't have the same problems, which did mean I could just get on with teaching. And I just wanted to raise something that was raised earlier. We joked a little bit, the teacher training. See, it's, and look, people can tell me to shut up, but when teacher training is run by an academic institution, which is a university, there is this feeling, there's got to be the academics to it, which is the papers. The reality is, to me, it's a craft, and it should be maybe more Polytech based. I'm not saying Polytech should run it, but it's such a craft like, how do I start a lesson? How do I write reports? How do I administer KMAR, which is the overriding system of attendance, marks, discipline options, in terms of how do I, not punish kids, but how do I, what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? How do I learn names? Expectations when I'm out in the field in terms of health and safety. None of those things are taught. And really, that's ridiculous. It would be like trying to learn rugby by doing papers, on theory. And the reality is, in the room, it's all craft. It's your voice. I went through, I had a wonderful mentor teacher, and she would just suddenly end up on top of the desk. And her thing was, if she was bigger and louder and she had this presence. Now, you could talk about presence as a technique, or you could talk about the other person who would lower their voice and it would become softer and the class would come down with them. And then you might have someone like me it's just this arm waving and, I'm on the board and it's busy and no kid so, and all of those are techniques that we can pick on and I would use at times. So anyway, so that's my fear. I think the academic institution side of it, to justify it for themselves, means there's papers that Jamie's saying, the educational history of something. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I need to learn the craft.
What about, now you've got me started, parents, right? Like that's another thing I'm thinking they should teach you. Jamie, like parent-teacher interviews, what was that like? Because again, especially as younger, you're talking to parents who are potentially decades older than you. How do you go into those? How do you get warned, practice? What was that whole experience like for you?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I had a lot of questions to ask Janine and she listened to them all, which is quite nice. But my main thing, I was like, I'm coming in and why would they want like this young person telling them about their kids? And I was like, what if I get like this parent that starts saying this? And so Janine was quite cool and she got me to write down, just a structure of how I can start the interview and lead it, some questions to ask, which was quite nice. So it didn't feel as scary, but they would come in and it was like the first thing they'd say would be, oh, you're quite young. Or, oh, I didn't expect you to be this young.
Yeah, can I jump in here? So what we've jumped, which is great. You're in what is called a PRT program. So just for kids sitting there listening, maybe they've loved school, maybe they didn't love school and that's the reason they want to go and make a difference in education. There's going to be a lot of reasons to go to education. There can be that feeling, I can do a hell of a lot better than those numbnuts next to me. Cool. We end up at TCOL, we do a degree, we learn more, and then we train. You're year 1 and 2, you go through what is called a PRT program. You mentioned Janine, so that's my wife who looks after you. That's how I sort of met you and sort of thought this would be a great podcast. She's your mentor. As one of your mentors, you have your PE one, and then she oversees the PRT program.
Yeah.
What is a PRT program from your eyes, and what does it offer you? So you're not just suddenly me, of a 30-year teacher, here's your classes. It's different for you.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's kind of like everything that you wish they taught you about in uni, I can then ask Janine, like it's how do I work KMAR or parrot and moderation? It's getting feedback on that. And then her also sending me on professional development days. I did one in Hamilton, which was so cool and so fun. And it was about classroom management and learning that side. And then also she helps me work through, like I have to record how I'm hitting the professional standards in the classroom and things like that. And then Logan oh, sorry, you continue.
No. So you meet with her how often-ish, or?
It swaps between her and Logan, the head of department of PE, my mentor there. Like every second week I'll see her.
Yeah. And you're also on a reduced program. So whereas some teachers might be teaching 40 hours, you're teaching 30.
Yeah. I think yeah.
Yeah, so those reduced hours are there to remove stress, to allow you're going to take longer to plan than I am, to meet with these mentors you've got. So the education system allows you to arrive year one, have a far more reduced program. By year two, you've still got a reduced one, but you've got a few more hours teaching, to eventually, if you do all that right, you meet with your people enough and you meet your professional standards, you get signed off. And I suppose now you're I'm not going to say proper teacher, but you are now a fully qualified teacher, registered teacher. Is that right?
Yeah. Getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, getting there. Yeah. No, cool. How have you just then? What are the struggles you've had being your first 6 months in teaching?
Marking and moderation. Like, uni doesn't teach you anything about marking moderation, so coming into that was quite nerve-wracking, but Holly and Logan in the PE department have been super supportive and helpful with that.
Cool. So part of what you're talking about is these mentors are keeping you safe.
Yeah.
I think is a major part of your job, particularly for someone young like you.
Yeah, definitely. And just getting like around, if we had, someone difficult in class, Janine would help me out with that and some options we could go through and that side as well.
Cool. What about then the things that maybe you thought you'd look forward to, but they've surprised you? What's really gone, I love this? Like, what are the loves of this job? Or has it met expectations, I suppose, of what you thought your career might look like? What's been cool about it?
I think coming into Mercury Bay was probably the best for me as a beginning teacher, because everyone there is so friendly and so helpful. I like coming in as a first year teacher, I knew that, everyone would try to help you out, but I didn't know it would be to this much, where everyone's just trying to uplift you 24/7 and be like, well, you're doing this and it's being amazing, you're doing great, and don't worry about this side. So that's really awesome. And specifically in PE, being involved in the outdoor education trips is unreal. I try to tell those kids, you have no idea how lucky you guys are. You get to go to the beach and surf for 3 days, or we get to go on this unreal kayak trip. And it's cool because you see them in more of a leadership opportunity outside the classroom, and you get to know some of their different skills and qualities, and same for them with me. But seeing them thrive in green and blue spaces is unreal.
Wicked. So you've really integrated into Whitianga. To you, it's been a great place to arrive. You found it really supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky as well. I have family. My dad grew up in Tairua, and I have family Cooks Beachside. So coming in, I wasn't completely alone, but it was definitely I remember mum and dad dropping me off, and they're like, okay, we're going to go. And I was like, don't you leave me here by myself. Take me back home. And getting to the first day of having to go into work, and I was on the phone with mum, and I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's all right, we'll figure it out. I can come home. And she was like, no, just go. It'll be fine, first day.
And have you made friends and joined teams and things, so integrated yourself into the community? Because I think that's a massive part. Doesn't matter whether you end up in a school downtown Wellington or in Auckland or wherever. The community is important, because the parents watching you are the ones, I suppose, signing you off and saying, yeah, we really approve of this young girl, young lady.
Yeah.
Have you joined stuff, and have you made friends? And
yeah, I joined a social netball team with Isla, another teacher at the school. I did drag my mum along and my sister and Charlie to that pickleball they play on Saturday in the school gym, which was quite funny. But yeah, I think it's important coming in to, well, I view it as a way of I'm coming in and people already have their friend group. So it's got to be, you're the person that has to always stick out your hand and be like, okay, let's go do something. Let's go on a walk, and constantly inviting people. So through that, I've made a really cool group of mates, which has been really nice.
Cool. Just, I probably got one more on this age thing that we've been talking about is how have you, maybe it became natural because of your Onewhero experience and the community you grew up in, but that age gap I mentioned at the start of this interview between you and the other teachers, because, you're working with people, the majority, you are the youngest. I mean, you've got Baby J is your name at school, not because you're a baby, but there's another Jamie. So the only way to distinguish you was Baby Jamie. So have you found that hard, or is it just something that comes natural to you? Because it did for me. They were light years. I was rough around the edges. I was surfing. They were just. How have you dealt with that?
I think it was. I don't know. It kind of just came natural, I guess. And I think it was important to, make sure that I was going to the social events and having those connections with the teachers, other teachers at school. And it's really fun. Like, even though, they may be like, I don't know, 10 years older than me, it doesn't necessarily feel like that. Like, I don't sit there thinking, oh my God, I'm 22 and I'm sitting here with like 40-year-olds at this social event and this sucks and blah, blah. No, like everyone's there and they're all having fun and it's quite nice.
Cool.
Jamie, that makes me laugh because I have worked with people similar where they're older. The only time is sometimes when they'd be complaining about their kids, I'd be like, sounds like your kid's kind of cool. Like they're like,
actually, no, it was.
Yeah,
it was. I think it was Blair that came and asked me how to use the torch on his phone, and that was the only time when I was like, oh.
I was looking for something and I didn't know how to get the torch to go. Apparently, Grace, you go from the top right and you go that way.
Yeah, you can. Wow, that actually shocks me because he's pretty good on the tech stuff most of the time.
Oh no, but yeah, I look that. And actually, can I say that is the beauty of having young staff, is it helped people like me stay connected because, and it's like having great, I'd have kids like Grace in my room. If you have that connection, but the respect as well, they are the connection to that generation. And if it is a phone, if suddenly they want to communicate on WhatsApp or something, I don't even know what these things are. That's quite funny. And I'm sure you're a real asset to the older staff. I'd be convinced of that. Sorry, can I want to go back to the area school situation. Would you have contemplated an area school application if you hadn't been in one? Or was it just the major draw? Or when you saw it, did you go, oh my God, wicked, I can work in an area school?
It was actually like I always wanted to come back to a school that reminded me of my school just because of, I know these days kids tend to like hate school and don't really want to come, and the effect it had on me and how much fun I had. Like when I look back, there wasn't really a negative experience that, I didn't want to get out of bed and go to school. Like I had a really cool group of mates where my teachers were really awesome. So I wanted to get back to that side. Now, that's actually when I was at Morrinsville College, I was talking to the caretaker there and he was asking me, what I wanted to, where I wanted to go and what I wanted to go into. And I was like, oh, like schools like this and like Morrinsville College and this. And then we were talking about Coromandel and he was like, wouldn't it be cool if you ended up like at Fitzyounger teaching at Mercury Bay? And I was like, yeah, it would be cool to like end up on the Coromandel. And literally a couple of days later, the job popped up and I was like, it's so weird. And then I just applied for it on like it'd be cool if I got it, but I don't. Like I wouldn't expect to because not many teachers coming out of teaching college get permanent jobs. You kind of only get fixed term at this time. So when I got it, I was like, that is such a crazy, like almost full circle moment.
You had a good application process, so you had to put your CV in, you got interviewed, did you? Did they bring you over for the day or how did that work?
Yeah, it was my first interview. I applied and then I think I can't remember if I got a call or I got an email, but I got it from, I think it was Karen or someone at the school. And setting up an interview, and they were like, you could do it through Zoom or you could come in person. And I was like, I feel like it would be better to come in person and like, put a face rather than just talking to a screen for an interview. And then I told my parents, and my dad got so excited that he picked me up from Hamilton and drove me just like there and back for the day. And I was absolutely shitting bricks in the car. I was so nervous. And I got into the interview and just like thought I completely blew it, got back in the car, and I was like, nah, like we have to leave immediately. Like, I'm not going to get it. It's fine. And then Ross called me a couple of days later and was like, do you want it? And I was like, oh, yeah.
Can I ask, like Ross is the principal, can I ask, was the area school thing brought up in the interview? Do you think it was something they had seen as a real benefit, or did it not really matter? You're a great young teacher and they wanted you. Was it brought up?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I definitely did talk about what my experience was like in an area school and how I kind of like coming back to then Mercury Bay Area School, why I chose to then apply for the job, just because I was really keen to get back to that community kind of focused and driven environment where everyone kind of knows everyone and everyone's really helpful and super, you couldn't go to anyone in the school and they would say no if you had an issue. Everyone's going to be like, yes, let me help.
Yeah. Yeah, and before I forget, that's wicked. I want to just touch on briefly, some people might have listened to our vague criticism of some of the training or how it could possibly be better if we look on the positive side. There are solutions to that. So if there's kids sitting there now, like I remember when I was year 13, I was asking a teacher I really loved if I could teach their classes. So I'd have a study class, and I started to go in as a year 13. And when I was at university, I went back to my old school and when we had holidays and did the same. So that was really hands-on, maybe doing the things I felt were really going to help, like watching, helping, asking those annoying questions. How are you writing that report? Why are you saying that? Why are you doing that? So if you're a young kid sitting there and you're just loving school or not, whatever the reason is, motivation for teaching, you can tap those teachers on the shoulder and ask, can I come and watch? Can I come and participate? Is there a tutorial you're doing and I could come and help? I think there are other ways of building that craft and ensuring this profession is something you want and should be involved in. So I just put a shout out to that. And you probably were getting that by the sounds of it when you had your broken arm, in a sense. Yeah. You're going into other rooms and being a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Grace, what do you reckon? This has been good.
I'm trying to think if I had any more questions, but Jamie, we've covered a lot. Is there anything that we haven't covered or a question we didn't ask? Ludlam is a little bit older and I'm not in the field at all, so there could be something that's like the whole laptop, like even just thinking Ludlam when you started teaching, people didn't have laptops and iPads, and now that's, I'd say, a pretty regular thing, right? So there's just all these different things that you're experiencing. All that to say, is there anything we didn't ask you that you think someone who's keen to get into teaching maybe would benefit from hearing, or we should have asked you?
I think just like when you come into teaching and when you plan a lesson and you have like all these expectations of like, okay, it's going to go like this and it's going to go like this and it's going to be perfect, and then it does not go to plan like at all. And just coming into like especially practical environments and PE, don't beat yourself up if something does go kind of pear-shaped or it isn't going, and just being able to adapt and like think on your feet, I think is a quite good quality to come into teaching with. And if something does shake you from your confidence, like just pick yourself back up and you'll be fine, and kind of reshaping. I think today, and I see it a lot in class, sometimes we can be quite like critical on ourselves and quite quick to be negative, but just reshaping how we think to, we're not going to have a positive experience if we have a negative mindset about things. So making sure that we're just kind of uplifting ourselves more than beating ourselves down, I guess.
That's beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Go, Jamie. We need to get you the teacher's advocate job. That's beautiful. Because I was just going to touch on something you said. We had a firefighter, for example, on, and as he said, in his profession, not every day was the same. But I'd argue, I could literally at times, I'd have 2 year 13 classes and you'd have a similar lesson, or they'd have to cover the same thing. and they could never be the same. Just having different entities in front of you, different kids, a different time of the day, one student or something who reacts in a different way. You are just constantly on your feet, constantly thinking, re-strategizing. So this idea of teaching is you teach the same thing every year. But if you're a good teacher, like I taught Waihi Beach for goodness knows how long, but never the same, and never the same to the kids because their needs are always different. It's a really stimulating career, isn't it? Like it gets this thing going all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So look, before we get to our sign-off questions, I just think some of the things I've really picked up on, obviously Onewhero, wonderful experience, and I want to put a shout out to them. Hopefully maybe we can send this video to them because I think the job they've done producing kids like you is wicked. And obviously Mum being there, that's cool. Is Mum still there?
Yeah, Mum's still there. My little sister is still there as well. She's in her last year. And it was quite funny when I came out of teaching, I was teasing her and I was like, I could come back and I could be your teacher for your last year. Wouldn't that be funny? And she was like, don't you dare.
Brilliant. So yeah, look, I want to put a shout out to Onewhero. I think that's wicked. And obviously I think Whitianga here, I'm just gazing out my window at my view across the harbour, and it is a wonderfully supportive, and I think the experience you've had is the same experience my wife has had arriving. I mean, you both arrived at the same time. So you both started 2025, and it is important to both of you that the community is on board and that they really are. And also that area school thing, I just encourage, maybe actually there's kids sitting there now going, well, actually that's the only type of school I'd like to work in. Can I just ask back to that, you don't have anything to do with the primary kids at your school? Where does your involvement sit within 0 to 15 at the moment? Can I ask?
At Onewhero or at Whitianga?
No, at Mercury Bay.
Oh, yeah.
So you're teaching classes. You're not teaching primary kids.
No, I'm just teaching year 9 to 12.
9 to 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are in the secondary area.
Yeah.
Okay. So just another bit of stuff. So the community of learning is an initiative the Education Ministry's had for a while. That is now disappearing, and the community of learning was around primary schools, intermediate and secondary being closer connected. So I think there is this thing where secondary teachers sit there and they blame the middle school teachers, and they go, oh, they can't read and write or whatever it is, and then the middle school probably says, oh, the primary, but then the primary probably go, oh, you secondary teachers aren't embedding the same skill sets or using the thing. So there's this, whereas with the community of learning now disappearing, National's getting rid of it, this challenge of closing that gap and being communicating more closely is something you have an advantage with. So do you ever watch those little kids, or do you pop out and see them and chat to them? Is that happening at your school?
Especially with sometimes I'll have lessons on the field, and because we don't have the same break time as the little kids, they're out on the field during our lessons, so they do love to come up, and the big kids do talk, like they come and interact sometimes, and like sometimes it can get a bit hectic in that sense. They're like all staring at you, you can tell they kind of want to join in, and you're like, oh, just stay over by like your area for now. But yeah, you definitely see them around, and definitely talk to them. They are quite cute when you see them at school, and they're just like all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and like enjoying every second of it, which is cool.
Yeah, that's wicked. I must admit, I didn't comprehend it until I think it was the welcome of Janine, and the whole school was there, and the first 10 rows were these little kids in hats, and it sort of was this progression from these little 5-year-old up into the big seniors at the back, and it sort of dawned on you, this is really cool. Like, issues, but there was a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
We're going to get to our finishing question. I just want to, thank you for doing this. It's a wonderful career choice. You're obviously a wonderful ambassador. I think well done on that. The way you spoke about this, you're clearly a teacher. And just before Grace's question, other than thank you and put a shout out to all the schools you've been involved with, ask you your future. What are you thinking at the moment, or are you just living day to day and surviving, or?
Definitely a bit of both. At the moment, I think just focusing on getting my registration done, and then after that would be looking at I think everyone's doing it now, going and working overseas and experiencing that life, and potentially going over to Europe and, UK. And my parents actually lived in Italy for 2 years, and they said it was like the best time ever. So I think that side is definitely influencing me to, getting the travel bug a bit and moving overseas.
Right. Cool. I will keep up the good work, Jamie. I'll put in a good word to your supervisor
Thanks.
when I get out of here. I'm sure she can put something in your appraisal, but I'll hand over to Grace for her finishing thing.
Oh, wicked. Thank you. Honestly, Jamie, it's been really cool hearing you, but also hearing Ludlam, because I'm not a teacher, but I'm someone who's been impacted by really good ones, Ludlam being one of them, all the way to primary school. Like, there was 20 or 30 of us who left. When Mr. Bullock retired from Cambridge East in particular, we left our high school to go to his retirement. We were like one of hundreds, right? But we remember going through. So as a person involved in this conversation who doesn't have an interest in becoming a teacher, I'm just thankful that there are people like you, both of you, who do it. So that's the impact there. The sign-off question we love to ask is, not thinking about the general public, just thinking about you, Jamie. If you had to give yourself advice, go back to year 12 or 13, when you were apparently very indecisive, what advice would you give Jamie?
Probably not to overthink things, and like, if it isn't going to matter in 5 years, then don't beat yourself up over it right now. I think getting into that time when you're applying for university and getting really stressed out about it and trying to make the right decision, just everything just works out and it'll all just be fine.
Cool.
I love that. Thank you, Jamie.
Nice, Jamie. Keep up the good work,
Thanks for
mate.
having me. Thanks.
No, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, well done.